Hey guys, just wanted to make a quick video here just to address one of the common requests that I receive, and that is, can you show us how to fix computers? Well, yes and no. I can show you how to fix specific computers with specific symptoms, but there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of different symptoms, and then depending on the symptoms and the combination thereof, there are thousands upon thousands, literally upon thousands of different solutions. Depends on the hardware, depends on the software. Basically, the first step in any computer diagnostic is to determine if it's a hardware problem or a software problem. And in the most basic sense of that, the way you could tell is by wiping out everything on the hard drive and reinstalling your operating system from scratch. If the problem still exists on a clean installed operating system, or if you cannot get the operating system installed, then there's probably something physically wrong with the computer. So the hardware is the physical components that make up the computer, and the software is the operating system, the programs that is installed into the computer so that you can use it. So to give you a couple examples of that, this desktop system here, this customer always leaves it on. It's a Windows XP computer and it's many years old. And they had called me and said it got a blue screen, and I said, okay, I'll stop by and pick it up. And when I came by to pick it up, it was running and it was really, really hot. And I said, you left this on? And they said, yeah, we wanted to show you the blue screen. Well, that wasn't necessary, and the thing was really, really hot. And I said, okay, don't do that anymore. If you have a problem with the computer, turn it off. If you can take a picture of the blue screen, great. If you can't, that's okay. It's either going to work for me or it's not going to work for me. The tech doesn't need to see that badly that you leave it on. I mean, this thing could have caught fire. I mean, it was really, really hot. Who knows how much longer it would have taken, but it certainly wasn't getting any cooler. So don't do that. If you have a computer problem, turn the computer off. Now, before I work on a computer, you've seen me do this, I always take the side panel off and inspect it. And I've already fixed this computer. It's already done. I've actually replaced it. And I'll show you why. I'm going to take the side panel off of here. And this was a very fast diagnosis for me because I knew what to look for, and when I saw it, I knew exactly what to do, which was tell them the computer's no good. And I'll explain why. Now here's a side view of the internals of the computer, and you can see it's pretty clean on the inside, cables look good. Let's take a closer look. Now on closer inspection, I saw that the tops of these capacitors, and the capacitors are these cylinders that are an electrical component that's part of the motherboard, and every motherboard's got them. And you can see they're leaking. They almost look like if you've had a regular battery and you've seen a battery leak, it looks very similar to that. And what happens is they'll bulge out on the tops, and they're regulating power here. And now power is not being regulated through the rest of the board. So any components further down the circuit are probably damaged as a result of that. And this is just a zoom in on these three here in a row. However, there's some more on the motherboard that are leaking. Usually you don't just have one, and the board is so old it's not worth repairing. Now let me explain that a little further about what I mean by not worth repairing. There are people all over the world who watch these videos and in different economic situations. Here in America, everybody wants everything right away. So much so that the personal debt of every adult individual in America is staggering. They're willing to pay interest on top of interest on top of interest just so they can have what they want today. Now, give you an example of how this works. Somebody who doesn't have much business, who has a lot of time on their hands, might say to the customer, I can take these capacitors out, buy new ones for a few cents, and then resolder them back into place, and then reassemble the board back into the case, and then make 50, 60 bucks, and it's going to take me 2-3 days to get that done. Now in that 2 or 3 days, I will have fixed 15 computers and helped 15 people and made 15 times the amount of money, and my customers will I'll have that many more customers that are I don't have to worry about warranty work, because here's what will happen next. Whatever caused those capacitors to go will probably happen again. And so the problem you're fixing today will probably revisit you in a few months' time. Probably. That results in a customer who feels that you don't know what you were doing, you ripped them off, all that labor and time you spent, they have no appreciation for, and they're upset because they have to bring it back. Nobody wins in this situation. Now, to give you another example, if I were to take my car to a mechanic and they said my water pump was bad, they would not take my water pump off, rebuild it, and put it back on my car. Nobody's got time for that, not in America. What they'll do is they'll take the water pump off, put a new or refurbished water pump on the car, put it back together, and move on to the next customer. The water pumps go to a third-party company, and all they do is rebuild water pumps and then sell them back. That's how that process works here in America. Now, there are people here in America who, for economic reasons, will have a lot more time than money. We'll put it to you that way. That tends to be the way of the world. People either have time and no money, or money and no time. And very, very few people have both time and money. So if you're trying to run a business, you're trying to help as many customers as quickly as possible, and the customers want to be helped as quickly as possible. And you're not doing that by changing capacitors out on a 6-year-old motherboard that's got no warranty on it. That's still going to be as slow as when it was working at its best when they brought it or when they bought it. So, you know, it's not upgradable to Windows 7, and it's just a nightmare. And that's why I run my business the way I do. Now, that's not to say you couldn't make a profit and replace capacitors on a board. I won't do it. So to me, the system's old, it's obsolete, it can't run Windows 7. XP support ends in April of 2014. This is a good excuse to get a new computer with Windows 7 or Windows 8 and have a new warranty. And you're less likely to have anything go wrong versus a repair. So I just feel that explanation is necessary because I see people say, well, that's not a repair. You didn't repair it, you replaced a part. That's what we do in America. We replace parts. Someone else, you know, we either throw the old parts away because it's cheaper for us to buy. For example, I could buy a new motherboard for $60, or my time and labor would be somewhere around $180 for the time it would take to pull that board and replace those capacitors. And in the meantime, I'd have all these other customers waiting and maybe taking their business someplace else who could help them because they want it now. And I would lose probably another $1,000 or $1,200, maybe more, in lost work just in that one repair. It doesn't make sense. I like to say, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Now over here, we've got a laptop. And the symptom on the laptop, I can actually display to you, where Windows doesn't load. And it just started one day, it was working fine, and then all of a sudden one day they go to turn it on and Windows will not finish loading. Now this has Windows Vista and it's a few years old. And what do we got here? This has a battery alert. It's okay, I don't care about the battery. And sorry about that, I'm just trying to look at it at the same time you can see it. And what ends up happening is it just sits here, and what this is a symptom of, in my experience, is a bad hard drive. Not always, but a good majority of the time that's what it is. And if you let it sit here long enough, when the hard drive goes bad, it's like for those of us that are a bit older and remember records, when a record had a scratch on it, the needle would skip and it would just keep repeating the same part on the record over and over again. Well, when a hard drive has a bad spot on it, the head on the hard drive will try and read that bad spot over and over and over, and it creates this long delay. But unlike the record, it will eventually move on to the next sector. If the next sector is also damaged, then the whole process starts again. So your delay may be just a few seconds, or your delay may be forever. It may never load. Just depends on how badly the hard drive is damaged. So what I do to verify it is I will take a Acronis, which is a great little piece of software for making a system image, and I'll boot off the Acronis Rescue CD or USB flash drive and hook up an external USB hard drive and try and clone the hard drive. When I try and load Acronis on this to image the hard drive, it says it can't read sector whatever. Do you want to ignore it? And I just say ignore all of it, and it just sits there. So it keeps hitting bad sector after bad sector. I can't recover anything on this drive, and I know for a fact the drive is bad because Acronis can't read it. Another way I could know is if I took the drive out and plugged it into another computer and ran Crystal Disk Info, which is a quick tips video I've got, which would also show me that it's bad, assuming I could even get that far. But you can see the system's been on for quite some time now, and we're still looking. Oh, there, look, it's just now, we're just now getting the Vista loading bars there. So it is sort of moving along, but nowhere near like it's supposed to. So the drive is failing. Now when a drive is starting to fail, the clock is ticking with regards to how much time you've got to get any data off of the drive. Some people don't get any warnings at all. This customer is getting a warning, and I don't know how bad this warning is. More than likely, I'm not going to be able to pull any data off of this. However, there is a chance because it does partially load. If it didn't load at all, then data recovery can be $1,200 to $2,000 and take a few weeks' time because it's got to be shipped off, and it's very expensive and time consuming. So this customer really just uses this for email, and they travel around a lot, which is why they've got a laptop. What I'm doing now is just holding the power button in to shut the laptop off, which it is now off. And I'm going to take the battery out of it, which is what you always do on a laptop before you do any work to it. And on some laptops, on a lot of them, they have a diagram that looks like a stack of pancakes. Would be the best way I can explain it. And this panel right here has that little diagram on it. And that tells me that's where the hard drive is, because the hard drive platters look like that. I mean, you wouldn't know that if you weren't a tech. But there's just two screws here. And like I say, some laptops, like on some Dells, they'll be on the edge and the drive just slides out. Others, you've got to completely take the laptop apart, which I think is bad design on behalf of the laptop manufacturer, because all hard drives will fail. Now we take this out, and careful not to lose the screws, and I can see the hard drive's right here. This is the drive, and it's got 3 screws holding it in place. So if I remove these 3 screws, so I've got the 3 screws removed, and then I can pull up on this drive and it just slides out. That's the hard drive. And this drive, as I said, it's definitely bad. It's a SATA based drive. And I've already talked to the customer about how much a new laptop costs versus what it's going to cost to repair this one. Given that the battery's bad, it gets a bad battery message every time it turns on. They say they never use it on battery, so they don't care about that. I asked them if they thought the computer was slow. They said no, the computer ran fast enough for their needs. And then I told them how much the repair would be, and if they thought that that was worth still repairing versus buying a new one. So that's all about setting the customer's expectations. I don't want to spend a lot of time and effort and have a customer who's upset with me because it costs too much. So I already tell them right up front, this is what it's going to cost you. What's got to happen is you got to buy a new drive, and I've got to install that drive, and then I've got to restore the operating system, and any programs that the customer had, they're gone. If there's any data on the drive, I can try and recover it, but that's not really my specialty. I don't really have the $100,000 worth of equipment that professional data recovery services will utilize, and I also don't have the experience on that equipment. It's just not what I do. So, you know, I do offer to do what I can, and they said, no, there's really nothing important on it. And so what I've just done here is I've removed the 2 screws on each side that hold the drive into this little tray. And this drive can come right out, and I'll just set it right there. The drive is fragile, and as long as there's a chance of recovering data, you don't want to handle it too much. You want to be gentle with it as much as possible, and you want to keep the computer off as much as possible. This is the replacement drive I've got. So what they had is a Western Digital 160 gigabyte drive, and I can't even find those anymore. The smallest drive I can find now is about 250. So what I've got here is a Seagate Momentous 250 gig drive, and it's the standard SATA interface, just like the other drive. It's going to work just fine, and I'm just going to seat it back down into the tray exactly the same way the old one came out, and put the same screws into it that it had. Now with the drive back in its caddy or drive tray, this can only go in one way with the SATA connector. It's going to go in. If you can see, there's a connector sticking out here, and the drive goes in with the top side facing down, and it's going to actually slide in. It sort of drops in place towards the back, and then you push it forward until the screws will line up, and that's it. That seats it into the socket, and now I can put the 3 screws back into it that hold the drive tray in place. And with that back in place, we can put the cover back on. The cover's got 2 plastic clips that go in first. And then there are some side clips that pop in. Then we can put our battery back in. Now, of course, it's not going to boot up because it's a brand new hard drive. There's no partition on it, it's not formatted, and there's certainly no operating system. So at this point, you could use the restore discs that came with the laptop, or most laptops don't come with them anymore, so you could order the restore discs, presuming you already have them. If you don't have them, I'd suggest you make them. If you have a laptop, this is especially important, or really any major brand name manufacturer, Dell, Compaq, HP, Acer, Sony, etc., they all have restore discs that are available to purchase. They're about $30 on average, at least here in the US. I looked up the restore discs on this, they're just no longer available. So what I've got to do is just grab an original OEM installation of Windows Vista and use the product key on the bottom of the laptop to activate it, and then reinstall the drivers. I'll download the drivers from the HP website. Again, this is a Compaq laptop. HP and Compaq are the same company. And get the drivers installed, make sure the network, wireless, both the wired and wireless network, the sound card, the video card, make sure all the drivers are installed properly, put antivirus back on it, make sure all the Windows updates and service packs are put back on it. It's a lot of work. And then return it back to the customer, and it should be good to go. So that's the process, but I know the next question you're asking is, well, how would you get the data off of this drive? There are a number of USB adapters. I've got one here. This is a SATA to USB 3.0 adapter by a company called Dyconn. You may not be familiar with Dyconn. They often rebrand their stuff for other companies, and where they're mostly known is in the mounts for big screen TVs, the wall mounts. But inside of this little box here, we've got a USB cable. We've got the adapter itself, which is a lot smaller than it looks on the box, right? And all you do with this adapter, it's very simple, is one end of it has the standard SATA data and power connectors, and it's just going to plug right onto the back of any SATA-based hard drive, whether it's a desktop hard drive or a laptop hard drive, or even a solid-state drive. Now they give you a power connector or a power adapter, and that's for a desktop hard drive. The laptop hard drives will run off the power through the USB port, which is really convenient. There's an on-off switch, and basically you just plug this into a working computer with the USB cable, and if the drive is functioning at all, you'll see it as an added drive letter on your computer, and you can just copy and paste the data off of it that you need. It's really that simple, and these adapters are really inexpensive, and they're just great to have around. You see how small it is. I mean, you could have this as part of your toolkit if you're a tech, or just to have it if you want to make your own external backups. You don't have to buy an external USB drive. You can buy just a bare drive and just plug this onto it when you want to use it. It'd save a little money since you're not buying the whole enclosure and everything. And again, this is from Dyconn, and I will put a link to this in the video notes below the video. And that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please hit the like button, and please subscribe to my channel to be alerted to when new videos are posted. And thank you for watching. Bye for now.